This is the Toward a New World podcast with your host, Corinna Stoffel. As a space for all things regarding the global, collective transition we are in, we have conversations about transition, separation, and connection regarding oneself, others, and the earth. The aim is to educate, empower, and inspire.
Hello and welcome. And welcome, Anne. I am so looking forward to having this conversation with you today. And let me introduce Anne quickly. Anne Dunnett and I met some time ago at a Women's Speaker Association event, and we actually got paired twice during that event, which really struck me as, what's that all about? And I thoroughly enjoyed that twice because we got to really connect with each other, meet each other, learn about each other. Anne is somebody who writes haiku and is very connected with nature. So there was, right, that nature connection was there. And being connected with nature is not that difficult if you live on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. So for her, writing haiku is a powerful tool for mindfulness, and that mindfulness has brought wholeness to her life and influenced her lifestyle. And haiku have won honorable mentions, have been featured in anthologies. And for her, she's writing because she enjoys writing, not because of all the accolades. Let's put it that way. So to get us started, how did you get started on writing haiku? And
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this. Yeah, we've had some great little chats so far, so I will just dive into that first question. And it's a little bit of a weaving path of my haiku journey that goes a little bit back and forth, but I will try my best to keep it as short, like a haiku, as I can. So it goes back to when I was 10 years old. So that's how far back I go. I go with my first introduction to haiku. And I think a lot of people that I talked to about haiku learned it in elementary school or high school, possibly with a language, English language school assignment that most kids would groan about, that, oh, I have to write some poetry. But I got that assignment, and the gift that I had with that assignment was that my grandmother, who was very connected with, I like to say that we were more like soul sisters than grandmother, granddaughter. She and I were very connected. And she wrote poetry. She was a very interesting woman. I could probably spend a whole hour talking just about her, but I won't. She wrote haiku as well. So I went to her and got a little bit of help with my homework. And what is really interesting about that is most times, if you have parents have kids and they have scrapbooks, they have art assignments, they have all that stuff, you throw a lot of that stuff out. I had a scrapbook from that year of grade 5 that had kept. My mom, I just kept it. And when I started getting more into the mindfulness part of haiku and wanting to teach a little workshops and courses and stuff like that, I wanted to bring in this story about my first haiku with my grandmother. And I found that haiku in the scrapbook, which was amazing. So that was really exciting. When I saw that, I'm like, I can't believe I found the haiku, because I didn't even remember it. So that was my first time I wrote haiku. Then I never thought about it after that. It just disappeared. And I never grew up wanting to be a poet or to write. I wanted to be an artist, and I went into art school, and I became a graphic designer. And in my early 20s, I wasn't really happy not that happy with being with the industry of graphic design. I felt like I needed to have some more purpose or some meaning, and I was introduced to spiritual philosophies from my grandmother when I was a teenager. So I was always interested in these different ways of being or thinking, and I started doing craft fairs just for creativity. And then I started using my grandmother's haiku for making little art cards. So that was when my design became integrated with a little bit of poetry, and I didn't write any haiku at all. And then I had an astrology reading when I was in my late 20s, which was profound. And this woman I had just told her about my relationship with my grandmother, and she was saying that we had a very strong soul connection. And then she's looking at my chart, and she's like, "You should be writing poetry." Then she said, "You should be writing haiku poetry." And I got goosebumps when she said that, because I looked at her and I said, "My grandma writes haiku." So I went off with this experience, and I started reading a little bit about haiku, and then I wrote a little bit about haiku. And I went with what I had learned when I was 10, which is writing haiku based on a syllable count, which is what a lot of people learned about. And it's a 3-line format of the first line's 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, and then the last line is 5 syllables. So I was going with that. I wrote some really crappy poetry, and then I put it in the drawer, and I left it for 12 years. I didn't do anything. And then about 15 years ago, actually more like 17 years ago at this point, I just intuitively, like, I remember what this astrologer said, and I picked up a really big book on Japanese culture, and I started reading it, and it had a whole chapter on haiku, and I got inspired, and I kept feeling this pull to learn how to write haiku. And I had been doing a lot of artwork at the time. I was working as a designer, freelancing, and I had a woman teaching or was helping me with some PR. And then I told her, I said, "Oh, I'm going to start writing some haiku." And then she goes, "Oh, my neighbor on Gabriella Island, which is near Vancouver, is a haiku poet. She was in her 80s, and she has a summer weekend, haiku poet weekend." And this was in June, and this event was in, I think, August. So I connected with this woman, and before I knew it, I was on the ferry, and I was off to Gabriella Island, and I met all of these haiku poets who are really well established, very high up there in the haiku community. And I learned so much. I learned that it's not, the focus is a 5-7-5 syllable count. And I had to erase all of the things that I believed and thought that I knew about haiku and start over. And it took some time to figure it out. And I started going to the Vancouver Haiku group meetings. So we met once a month. And with that group, I learned a lot about haiku, and I was able to get better at writing it and learning what it was all about. And over the years, I've connected it with mindfulness. And now I just want to share more about the philosophy and the mindfulness piece of haiku. There.
What a journey. Yeah.
And that's the short version.
That's the short version. I want to get back to something that you just said, that standard haiku that we get exposed to is the 5-7-5 syllable count. But you said that there is a different way of writing haiku. Would you go into that and explain the difference a bit?
The difference is the focus isn't on counting syllables, and the focus is like a Japanese haiku is really based on nature. It's very strong connection to nature, as you mentioned at the beginning, as well as the seasons and the senses. And it's always written in the present tense. So with the 575 syllable count, I've read a lot of haiku, but people are writing it in that format. And all of those, like you can still write nature, seasons, senses, and in the moment in that structure. You can see it gets a little fuzzy because you can still write it in that format, but you don't have to. And that's the piece of it, is that the focus of the syllable count is lessened when I was going to the haiku group. They said to me, don't even count the syllables, like, or if you feel like you need to count syllables, do less, because it's less is more. What you're trying to do is to create images. So with haiku, there's I'm having a mind blank on the Japanese word for it, but there's a break. So there's two images. So you've been reading my haiku for a little bit now. So I don't know if you've noticed there's a little bit of a rhythm, or there'll be one image will be, usually for me, my style is to create like, say, ocean moon would be the first line. Then there's a little bit of a pause. That's one image. Then it goes into two lines that flow together that create a different image, but it's still connected to the first image.
Yeah.
So again, with the 575 syllable count, people will, it's almost, people are writing more outwardly, like more like a quote, or they would like haiku takes you in, and the purpose of it is to actually feel the words, to see the words, to smell because of the senses, and to experience it. And what I find is that people have challenges with understanding that about haiku. And like, I remember years ago, when I was well, I'm still working as a graphic designer, but I wasn't doing that much haiku, but I was using my haiku for my business cards and to, as a little marketing tool. And I specifically remember giving one of my cards to this woman at this networking event, and she looked at it, and she kind of was like, she looked really like confused, and she goes, I don't understand this. What do I do with this? That's what she said. What do I do with this? And then I said, you don't do anything with it. Because we're so used to being told to do things. What do I do, like, with information? Haiku is not information. Haiku is, it helps people to slow down and to connect with themselves, but to connect with nature and to breathe. And it's like when you go for a walk, for example, and you're with your friend and you've got your phone, and the two of you are going, let's go for a nature walk, and you go through the woods and you're talking. Oh, let's take a picture of us, do a selfie, you're talking, and you come back and you don't even know that you went for a walk in the woods.
You are not being present in the woods. You're not noticing the trees, the animals, whatever. That is so important. Let's put it that way. It has become so important for me because when I grew up, my parents, we went hiking a lot, but there was always an agenda to get from A to B and then back to A and drive home. And I can't deal with that anymore. I really enjoy. We have an echo.
Oh, really? I don't have one on my end. I'm good.
Yeah, I have one on my end. Oh, it's gone now.
Oh, okay.
But I really enjoy just hanging out in nature.
Hmm.
And that's what I enjoy so much about your haiku. You usually send out your newsletter on Thursdays, and this morning, oh yeah, there's Anne's newsletter. I don't have time to read the whole newsletter right now, but I just want to be with the haiku
Hmm.
and being present and allowing the images that you paint with the words and the energy of those images and allow that to envelope me and to perceive that and just be present with that,
Hmm.
even if it's just for an extra total 5 minutes. It's not taking a huge amount of time out of the day, but it shifts so much for me.
Yeah. But not everybody can do that. That's
Yeah,
that's
I
that's
hear
that's,
you.
that's the I would say
Invitation.
challenge of today's society is that we're so used to being thrown with quotes and information and affirmations, which are fine. Affirmations are fine, are great, but that's what makes haiku so special, is that it's not, it doesn't tell you to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I always reflect back onto it, and onto that woman was so perplexed and confused about what this was all about. And a lot of people really resonate with what I'm doing, but a lot of people don't understand it as well. So it's my purpose, my mission, I believe, is to help people to slow down and to connect with nature and mindfulness and all of those things in a different way. Like haiku, I just see it as something so special, and not a lot of people are doing what I'm doing with haiku. Most of the haiku community, people that I've connected with, they're just focused on writing haiku, which is fine because that's what they're passionate about, and that's where
Mhm.
I'm. I think my haiku poetry is good. I don't think that I'm this amazing haiku poet that's going to win all of these awards and stuff like that. But I don't really care about that. I'm good with doing the best that I can without trying to make it anything other than what it is, or trying too hard. Or I used to do that when I was first learning. And sometimes when I do my newsletter, I was like, I don't know if this is good enough, but I just put it out anyways. That's so this is self-critical. Hmm.
The perfectionism.
Yes. Yes.
The damn perfectionism, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, you've hinted at it several times now in what you said, but I would really like you to uh, go even more into that fact that haiku invites mindfulness, and
Hmm.
mindfulness invites haiku, the way
Hmm.
I almost understand it. And mindfulness is such an important aspect, at least for me, uh, in moving towards a new world, to be
Hmm.
more mindful, to be more present with what is.
Hmm.
Can you share your thoughts or take on that?
Of course. Well, I say that the connection with mindfulness and haiku is awareness, of just having an awareness of your feelings, and I'm not getting too wrapped up in that. What I find is a little bit different with haiku. Like, it is connected to mindfulness around awareness, being aware of yourself, not judging
Mhm.
yourself for how you're feeling, but it's also connecting with your emotions and not pushing them down, or not like haiku is it's expressive. It expresses what the haiku poet is feeling.
Mhm.
So it's an expression of an experience that that I would have, or another haiku poet would have. It's true haiku, again, is based on experiences. I go out of that line a little bit, and sometimes I will use my imagination. If the haiku police were in the room, then I would get in trouble for that. But I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like, I came to a point where I'm okay with that. I will read something, and something that's really beautiful, it will inspire me, and I will use a little bit of that to write a haiku and base it on another experience that I've had or something like that. But the mindfulness part ties into the senses and connecting to the senses, and just connecting to yourself, but connecting how you experience nature and the world that you're in, and just be an observer. Like, somehow it's interesting, because I find that if you can step back and watch what's going on in the world, you don't get sucked into the drama. And like, there's obviously there's a lot of drama going on right now. So with haiku, it gives you a perspective of watching from a distance, but also feeling connected.
Yes.
Is that kind of confusing?
No,
And,
for me personally, it's absolutely clear what you mean, but continue.
and I think another focus that I want to bring into what I'm doing is to move from the thinking mind. Mindfulness definitely is very important, but with writing haiku, like, I was teaching people how to write haiku for just a little while, and that was when I realized that I didn't really want to focus on that, because it's not my specialty. I'm not an English teacher. But I found that the people that were trying to write haiku without knowing a lot about it, that they were getting frustrated, but they were overthinking. They were trying too hard. They were putting concepts into it and ideas, and they weren't able to just be in that moment. But it's almost like going from your head to your heart. Like, I want, like, haiku to be more heart-based than mindfulness, even though mindfulness is important. But I think if we start living from our heart, then we won't be thinking as much as we need to, if that makes sense.
I have a question for you. What you just said brings up something. Are we, or is there the idea that mindfulness requires thinking? Because for me, mindfulness is presence, which is being in my body, being in my heart, and not thinking.
Yes, exactly. And I may have not said that quite in that way, but that's exactly it. But I think, but I think sometimes it's the word mindfulness sometimes might get people in their head. And yes, haiku is definitely getting into your body, for sure. Like I said, the senses, like, it taps into, you go for a walk. I love to go for a walk by myself, and I live really close to the ocean and the mountains and the forest, so I'm very fortunate. I can get to the beach in 5 minutes from here. But to smell the ocean air, and to, I'll touch trees when I'm out there sometimes, and just really be present when I go for a walk. And I've been doing that for a long time. And haiku has taught me how to do that. That's the gift of what I've been doing, is to help me to be present. And I don't worry about the future like I used to, and I don't dwell on the past like I used to. Like, I have been able to just be present almost all the time at this point.
Wow. I mean, that is so counter to what most people do, who either dwell in the past or worry about the future.
Oh yeah, my mind used to
Yeah.
spinning. Like I would go to bed and it would race, and it would be just racing, and anxiety and stress. And not to say that I don't have some of those things, because I still do. That's just like, how can you not, with the way the world is at the moment? I try really hard to not engage in some of those things, and to keep present, and to keep in my heart, and to keep that, keep your vibration high, so we can, heal and move forward, and not have all of these horrible bad people doing things. Um, so, yes. Hmm.
Now the train left the station without me on it. And that happens sometimes. How, interesting thought that just arose.
Hmm.
How far is the ability to be present in the now moment, which is ultimately the only time that is?
Hmm.
Uh, how far is that related to a being okay with wherever I am in the physical body? And what I mean with that is what I am beginning to notice, that so many people that stress about the future are afraid of death. And
Yes.
I am so aware of, yes, I can contribute to what is going on into creating a different future as long as I am alive. But it doesn't mean that that stops for me when I'm dead, because I, from the other side, so to speak,
Hmm.
I can do exactly the same, maybe
Absolutely.
even more effectively.
Yes. Oh, totally. I totally hear you. Yes, I agree. Hmm.
It's and it brings me back being asked about resilience. What is resilience? And I think, not that I have an answer, I'm still playing with that question. But what I'm getting is part of resilience, at least, is letting go of that fear that if I'm no longer alive, then I'm missing out, or whatever connotations we
Fear of
have.
missing out. Hmm. Yeah.
So, where are you with that idea of having to be in physical body in order to contribute anything to the world from a collective perspective?
I'm going to be completely honest, and I have actually never thought of that.
Okay.
Interesting. Interesting, that you say that, but now that you've presented me with that question, I'm with you. I believe that I would continue in some
Mhm.
form. Like I would like to think that with what I'm doing, that somebody will pick this up, or um, I intuitively feel that as we move into this new world, that people are going to become more interested in what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And my vision with some of this is that a younger person will take over my business and continue on with what I'm doing. But but I haven't really had deep thoughts about that, because I actually believe that I'm going to live for a long time.
I see.
And
I
I'm not
see.
afraid of death either. I understand that.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I hear you. I mean, I see each human being as an infinite being,
Mhm.
without beginning and without end.
Yeah.
This is just one if I use a movie analogy, this is just one slide in the
Chapter.
movie.
Chapter. That's how I look at it. Yeah. I look at like my soul, I look at this life to me is a chapter that my soul is experiencing out of a big book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you're saying the same thing.
We're saying about the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's using different analogies.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm going to go back to haiku for a minute because you just triggered a thought about that. In Japan, back in when haiku started, which was like more around the 15th century, the Japanese haiku poets would write death poems. They would write a haiku poem on their deathbed. And there's a whole series of Japanese death poems.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're quite profound. Mm-hmm.
That would be what I mean. Now, because of me being interested, I have to ask, where can I find those?
I don't. They you could I could do some googling. I could try and find some for you, but it's not something that's like well known. How many people are going to be googling Japanese death poems? But I could look some up. I went to about 6 years ago. I went to another haiku weekend that was in Washington State, just outside of Seattle, a little bit north of Seattle. There's all those little communities around Everett, I think. I don't remember the town that I was in or where I was, but I went to this weekend, and it was actually this weekend. It was a Halloween weekend. So it was Halloween weekend, and the gentleman that runs this workshop or weekend, he's kind of known as the king of haiku in North America. Like I connected with him a long time ago. He's giving me some great feedback and advice and things like that on my haiku. He's been supportive, but he was running this. So part of the weekend had a Halloween theme, and there was a graveyard that was behind the property that we were staying at. And in the evening, they created a little event where they had a series of people reciting these Japanese death poems, and they had a fire, and we were surrounded by a gravesite, and the moon probably was there. I don't, it was, the mood was so perfect for the event. And then, but I think they even had some, fake fog, or, they made it really spectacular, but they were reading these ancient master haiku poets, deathbed death poems, and it was quite profound.
I can imagine. I mean, listening to a hospice doctor, he said the amount of wisdom that comes back if somebody gets resuscitated is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say with haiku, I wrote, both of my parents have passed. A little bit more recent is my mom, which was 2 years ago. It feels way more recent. It still feels, I wouldn't say it still feels fresh, but yeah, she passed away 2 years ago. My dad passed away 9 years ago. And I wrote a haiku around my dad's passing, and then with my mom. And with my dad, the haiku that I wrote, I included it with one of my workshops when I was teaching people how to write haiku. And I had written, I think, 20 different versions of it because I struggled with it, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. And I think because it was too hard, like I was still grieving, it was too hard. It took me, I think, 3 years to write that haiku, but I finally got it. And then with my mom, I wrote it like right away. It just was fast. I don't know why, but it just happened. It just happened that way. So I think I don't know, like with my dad, I'll tell you the scenario with my dad. I don't think I'll cry. But there's a town, he grew up in a town in BC in the interior called Nelson. It's this beautiful, funky little town. He was born and raised there. It's quite a drive from the island. So you have to drive to Vancouver, you take the ferry, and then it's another, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours. So
Wow.
we did a family trip to scatter his ashes in the lake. So we got there, and his best friend has property right on the lake. So it was small. My dad was 90 when he died. It was just a family, small little outdoor ceremony, and we did a little circle and talked. And then there was a wharf that my mom stayed behind. She didn't want to go on the wharf, but my siblings and I took the ashes out to scatter them in the lake. It's not like what you see in the movies. It took a long time. There's a lot of ashes. But when we were doing this, I looked over down to another pier, and there was a heron. There was a great blue heron that was there. And George, my dad's friend, said that he never sees that heron. And I know it was my dad.
Yeah.
So it took a really long time to write that haiku. And now I feel like I should probably read it to you. And I didn't pick that one. I was going to read some haiku, and
I just wanted to ask you if you could read.
Yeah, I think I have it in my mind. So let me see if I can remember the exact one. But it's a great blue heron. Oh, I have to find it. I think I'm going to try this again. Great blue heron, scattering ashes as we say our last goodbye. And my first 15 versions of that haiku, I did not say scattering ashes because I missed it. I kept saying great blue heron, we gather as we say goodbye, or like I had all of these different versions, but I didn't include scattering ashes. Like I was too close to it. I wasn't able to step back and get that distance from it to add. And then I had that light bulb moment of, oh, we were scattering his ashes. And it was just so clear that that's what we were doing without actually saying exactly, oh, my dad died. Or, I talk about a great blue heron. That's the first image. And then the pause, the great blue heron, and then scattering ashes as we say our last goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I got it right. And then with my mom, I was with her, like when my dad died, I was living in Vancouver at the time, and I wasn't around that. Like I saw him a week before he passed away. I was over on the island, and then he had a stroke, a major stroke. And then he died within 24 hours. It was very fast after that. And he was ready. He was definitely ready. He knew. So I wasn't physically with him, but with my mom, we moved back to the island 4 years ago. I was able to spend a lot more time with her for like 2.5 years. And then she had a stroke 2 years ago. And then it took a month for her to pass. We put her on comfort care, and we were we knew, like she was 91, and she was ready. Like
Yeah.
there was no there, like, we just knew, and we were all in agreement that this was, it was time. So I went to the hospital every day, and I could feel my dad's presence with us, and I kept telling her that he was, waiting for her.
Yeah.
So my partner and I, we went to see her the night before she died, and it was nice that he got to see her. He hadn't really been around a whole lot, so it was good to see her that night. And then the next day, I was doing some work. I always went there around noon and to see her, and I suddenly was just like, I have to go. And I got there, and she had just passed, like 15 minutes when I got there. But when she was in the hospital, like, she loved music, and she used to play the piano, and I would bring music in on YouTube and put little headphones on for her and stuff like that. And she would go like this, like, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm swimming. Like, she was doing this, like, when with a stroke, she changed, like, I could
Mhm.
see she's more childlike, but she kept kind of doing this, and she was kind of dancing a little bit and being kind of childlike. But she said that she was swimming. So the haiku that I wrote for her is, sorry,
Take your time.
ocean song, music in the waves takes her home.
Wow.
And that was really short. Like, that was a really, sorry. I didn't bring my Kleenex. I always end up making people cry when I do these things. I'm glad you're not.
I'm not crying, but I'm deeply touched. And I can feel your emotional energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that one, I was able to write right away.
Mm-hmm.
It was very clear. I can say it again without the emotional part. Okay. Ocean song, music in the waves takes her home.
Thank you.
So it's therapeutic as well. Haiku has that therapeutic expression. And for somebody to read some of these haiku that I wrote, it obviously isn't going to be as meaningful to them, but it could trigger, an emotion or a feeling or a memory, or, take them to a place or some kind of healing. I'd like to think that it helps people with that.
And just allowing oneself to, interesting, the word that just came from me, allowing oneself to receive the poem instead of read it.
Yes.
Which is the difference between thinking about it and receiving the energy, perceiving the senses, and all of that.
And I think that's what I was trying to explain about the mindfulness part of what you just said, is to feel it in the body, feel it in your heart, and to tap into the senses, and to smell the words, because you've probably noticed, I'll say, the smell of the smell of cinnamon, or the smell or the taste of like I think I wrote one haiku was the taste of, or the taste of yellow was in one of them. And when you think about it, you would never taste yellow. Like, yellow you cannot taste, but it gives you an image of something like a lemon without actually saying a lemon.
And for me, the image that came up was pound cake. The moment you said yellow taste, you know,
Well, I would take that
right
over
away,
lemon.
you know, and that is on some level where I see the beauty of it, because hearing the poem allows my imagery, which is different from somebody else's and somebody else's imagery, to come up. And that is not only where the mindfulness is, but also what you referred to, where the healing can be.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and that's exactly it, is that everybody is going to have a different lens, a different perception, a different experience. That's one thing I really noticed when I was going to the Vancouver Haiku group. Like every month, there would be a theme, and then there would be a little contest. So you write 2 haiku based on the theme and submit them anonymously, so nobody would know whose was whose. And then we would go around the room and we would read them and have a little bit of feedback, critique. But what I noticed through that exercise is that everybody would have a different perception.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, not like some people would have the same, but a lot of people would see something different, which I think is really interesting. I like, and that's what I like about that haiku offers that.
Can I ask you to read
Mm-hmm.
a few? I don't know how many you have or whatsoever, but maybe 2 or 3.
Yep, I've got them. I picked some out. So yeah, I won't be crying through these ones. And so another thing that we would do with the haiku group is to read the haiku twice. And by reading it twice allows you to feel it a little bit deeper and to close your eyes. So I'll invite you and whoever else is out there listening to us to just pause for a moment and just take a deep breath and close your eyes, and I will read a couple right now. Okay.
Thank you.
Moon, water, mist, becoming one in the sea of a Pisces dream. Moon, water, mist, becoming one in the sea of a Pisces dream. Open window. A white moth flutters through the moonlit night. Open window. A white moth flutters through the moonlit night. Wild mushrooms, hidden shadows in the stillness of the midday sun. Wild mushrooms, hidden shadows in the stillness of the midday sun.
Thank you.
I've got one more that I think is quite appropriate for where we're heading in the world. So I'm going to read one more. Okay. White butterfly. She follows the light to another world. White butterfly. She follows the light to another world.
Which gets me to ask, are we willing to be that white butterfly that follows the light?
Well, I think we are already.
Yeah.
Just got to get more people waking. People are waking up, though. It's a process. It's a transformation and patience.
And sometimes what my agenda, quote unquote, is with asking a question like that, is to actually make people aware of them already being there.
Mm-hmm.
But so often this is on an unconscious level, we are there,
Mhm.
but not on a conscious level. And what if we can make that level conscious?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm. Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, it's just trusting in the process, and having faith that we're going to get there, and that's what I keep holding on to. I wrote that last haiku. I wasn't right when COVID hit. I think it was maybe a year after.
Mhm.
Um, when there was other issues going on in the world with certain things, that I wrote it then. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Because I do believe that we're moving into um, higher consciousness, a better world, a peace, more, we want to have peace. Most people want to have happiness and prosperity and abundance, and there's certain people in the world that don't want that, and well, they want it for themselves. Let's just say that.
and also, I mean, I have been talking about moving from humanity 1.0 to humanity 2.0, and 1.0 being the competition, the
Hmm.
monoculture, everything has to be the same, and the judgment to collaboration,
Hmm.
diversity, and allowance,
Yeah. Hmm.
and having respect as the basis for those three.
Hmm.
Because there's also that, and again, it's the invitation to become conscious of it, that in order to have that truly, I need to respect the other as another human being,
Hmm.
not as the other, the bad guy, the whatever enemy, form of enemy.
Hmm.
And even nature, what if we respect nature? What if we respect animals and plants? And there is so much going on that on some level is still unconscious, and
Oh yeah. Oh, totally.
raise the consciousness of
Mhm.
and become more aware of it. And that's where I find the beauty of your haikus.
Mhm. Well,
So,
and yeah, and I also like with people being driven to succeed and to achieve and to
mhm,
have material things and money, and like those things. Obviously, we need those. I've never really been driven financially, which I've suffered from because I've been challenged with making money. Like I've been true to my
mhm,
form, and it's not something that I've been making an abundance of money from, but I feel driven to do this. Like I do have a drive to do this, um, with that kind of purposeful. But then there's people who are driven and purposeful for reasons of achieving, the fancy cars and the big house, and that's more materialistic. And
mhm.
I would like to see people more less focused on that. Like you don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Like, I have wealthy friends and they don't care that, I'm not in the same boat, but I feel like I am. I feel abundant, and I feel like I have a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And I feel very grateful for all of the things that I have. And, you know, a lot of rich people are empty. They feel empty inside. And I think that the connection to spirit and nature and all of these things that we're talking about, that's what makes you feel rich.
It's a form of wealth.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can I share a little bit about what I've been working on?
Absolutely. I just was getting ready to invite you to do that. You're reading my mind.
So you've been receiving my newsletter for a little while. I have been putting that newsletter out for 4.5 years now, and I have done some haiku workshops teaching people how to write haiku, and then I've kind of switched that over to have more of passion about teaching them more about the mindfulness philosophies. And I have recently included seasonal living into my workshops with the connection that haiku shares with the seasons. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have been working for the past 6 months, I'd say, on creating a seasonal living circle membership for midlife women. It's kind of more geared for women. Men can come, but my target is for women. And it's for women who are at a place where they have possibly recently retired or empty nesters, or they have some time on their hands and they want to connect with nature, and they want to have a little bit of creativity, and they want to be inspired. So it's an extension of my newsletter. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be little videos of me doing the haiku and the inspiration, and I have actually I have a free download of a seasonal journal. I've got the fall journal right now, and I will be working on the winter journal, which will be available in December. Like, I'm launching this membership circle for December, and I'm going to have journals, meditations. I'm going to have one live event a month with a yoga practitioner or a sound bath. I've already connected with a yoga instructor who is going to do a specific yoga class that will be connected to the energies of the winter season. So her yoga classes will be around the energy of winter, stillness, going into that quiet. And then when we go into spring, it will change. So it's really connecting with the energy of the seasons as well as the moon cycles. And then the haiku is sprinkled in there for that moment, to as a reminder to slow down and to pause and to reflect and to go into that stillness. So the haiku is it's not a lesser focus, but it is a little bit. It's a feature. It's a part of it, if that makes sense.
And it sounds utterly exciting.
I'm excited about it. I feel really good about it. I've been working really hard on it, and if people want to sign up for my newsletter, you can. I'm creating a separate website for this offer, but for my newsletter, people can sign up on the Everyday Haiku website.
And I'll put that in the show notes.
I'm going to be putting out soon. I'm going to be putting out more newsletters about the offer, about the circle. It's a lot of I'm working with a marketing lady that's helping me with the sales. I'm so uncomfortable with it, the sales part of it, but I know that I'm pushing myself through that process. So that's what I have been working on, and I've got my little YouTube channel as well, if people want to follow me on there, and then they can get a free haiku journal for fall. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I will put I plan on putting the URLs into the show notes.
Perfect.
So people have access, and it's only a click away.
Yes, exactly.
Make it easy all around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I so thoroughly enjoyed the conversation and what we talked about. So
Yes, thank you for having me. That was lovely. That was nice. That was good. I haven't
yeah,
been doing one of these for a while, so that was good.
yeah. And maybe we'll do it again in half a year or whatsoever.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.